just like that, August is done. The Everybody Counts Challenge for 2023 is over. I want to thank Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead so much. I learn more from this every year. I preserve more, I do more, I add more things to my list, and I get so much more done because of Jessica and this challenge. So thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you to all of you who have participated with me. This has been a great month. So I'm excited to show you what I got done in week 5. Welcome to Grow and Preserve. I'm Carter, and I'm so glad you're here today. All right, let's take a look. It had been a few days since I'd been out in the garden to harvest tomatoes, so I ran out this morning and grabbed as many as I could, and you can see I had a ton of relatively ripe ones. Some of them have some bad spots on them. We're getting to that time of the year where it's so hot and so wet that it's just a fight to get the tomatoes in before something bad happens to them. So several of my plants are starting to tank. I've got some blight out there. I have some that are just kind of giving up the ghost in terms of setting flowers. So we'll see how many more I get. My second batch, which I was really counting on, is not doing terribly well. So what I want to do is make sure I have enough tomatoes in the freezer to do several of the projects that I want to do this fall and winter. I already have 2 large batches of xoxo ready for the pantry this summer, so I think I'm going to hang on to these until we kind of see what my tomato plants are going to do. I don't want to go ahead and make an extra batch now and then go, oh my goodness, I don't have anything for crushed tomatoes or to make a good homegrown chili or whatever later this fall. So I took care of that, and then I also had a bunch of things hanging out, some in my fridge, some in the pantry going, yeah, you need to use this. So these are some peppers and purple onions that I had for a barbecue that we did a couple days ago, and I wanted to make sure that I got them taken care of. I didn't have any immediate need for them for dinner or anything, so I'm just going to go ahead, slice them up, and then bag them up together so I have my little combo pack that again makes my mornings a little bit easier to throw into eggs or omelet or whatever. I could even use it for a stir fry or whatever for dinner. That'll be fine too. And then I told you last week, I didn't make any hot pepper rings because I had used all my hot peppers in the 2 batches of salsa I had made recently. Well, my goodness, they came back with a bang. I was overloaded with peppers in this one. So I'm going to make another batch of pickled pepper rings, and these are going to be hot ones. As you can see, all those jalapenos going in there. All the red peppers are also super hot. So this is going to be a batch probably with David's name on it. But I end up making a dozen, look at all those jalapenos. I end up making a dozen jars of these, and so that is really going to help me out. My goal was to get to, I think, 24 to 30 of these. I started out at 36, and then I found the hot pepper relish, so I thought, well, that'll take some of the load off. But we will see next Saturday when I do the full month in review how close I am to my goal of 24 to 30 of these. So this one is going to help me out quite a bit. I thought I was only going to get 8 jars, and I ended up getting 12. So this is my standard little mix that I do all the time. This is a particularly hot version of it, but that's okay. I can always tell, even if I don't mark it specifically on the jar exactly how hot it is, I can always tell by the number of red peppers and the dark green peppers in there, because everything else is relatively mild. So these will be toasty. I'm going to get my brine in there. This is my normal brine. It is 3 parts vinegar to 1 part water. Today I added just a little bit of allulose because these are so hot. I wanted to offset the heat just a little bit. I also put some mustard seeds in there. And I even, instead of adding all white vinegar, I even did a little bit of apple cider vinegar because I had some brine left from another project I had done. So we'll get all of these debubbled, and then we'll wipe the rims, get the lids on, the rings on. I have my big canner out for these because I have so many. So I went about an inch of headspace. You know, sometimes you have to kind of mess with things here at the end. So I don't know about you, but I am really going through the lids this year. So I placed another big order with 4 jars, and I'm now restocked, and I'm happy about that. So I do have a discount code down below if you would like to use that. So now I have even more jalapenos than you saw go into that batch there. These two that I was just showing you, two funny looking peppers from the same plant, exact same plant. One actually looked like a jalapeno, one looked like a very small bell. It was very, very odd. Anyway, I'm going to get all of these diced up in the food processor, and then I'm going to flash freeze them and then package them up for the freezer. So my thought is that these will be ready for a big batch of taco meat or a big batch of chili or, you know, whatever I may want to do this fall and winter. So it took 2 runs of the food processor, but I ended up with a very full tray of jalapenos, and I'm excited to have these in the freezer. David is excited to have these in the freezer. So now I'm going to deal with all the cherry tomatoes that came in as well. I've got some that are going to go in the dehydrator in a minute, but I'm going to get another batch or two into the freezer. I'm really kind of liking the idea of having these available for this winter to throw in and kind of give that fresh summer taste to a pasta or a sauce or stir fry or whatever. So we'll get all these into the dehydrator to finish up that whole little harvest. Now I'm going to do something you guys have not seen me do, and frankly, I have not done it in quite a while. So I was having issues with my former vacuum sealer, and I just got to the point where I really hated it. So I found one that I love. It works every single time, and that has opened so many new options for me to be able to stick things in the freezer. So what I'm doing now is I am preparing some chicken, and these are individual chicken breasts. Some of them were so large, you know, that I cut them down into a normal human being size. And then I am going to cook them. I'm basically going to sous vide them, and it'll essentially come out like a poached chicken. I'm going to do that in these bags, and then I'm going to take them from the sous vide once they are fully cooked and lay them out in the freezer and freeze them. And so these will now be fully cooked and ready to go. Sometimes, you know, you do a salad or a grain bowl or a Buddha bowl or a noodle bowl or, you know, whatever it is you're doing, where the chicken isn't necessarily the star. All of the fun stuff is the star, you know, the vegetables or the fruit and the dressing, that kind of stuff. So I just want a, you know, basic piece of chicken that is just really there to provide the protein. So you can see I have the sous vide set up. Now I haven't been able to use this in ages either because my vacuum sealer was not reliable. So I've had this sous vide for, oh my goodness, for years. You can see I'm doing round 2 of this on the next day. So I ended up going through a couple of different versions because I didn't want to overload the sous vide machine all at once. But it is great to be able to sous vide again now that I have the vacuum sealer. So I think that this is going to be a really fun thing for us to have. So you can also, these are fully cooked, but you could certainly sear them on the grill for 30 seconds aside, throw them in the air fryer for, you know, a minute or less, toss them in a pan. If you just wanted some, you know, browning on the outside, they would be absolutely fine. So I end up with a good bunch of these, and I'm excited. But I will tell you, one of the things this has brought up to me is how poorly organized my freezers are, because I have a large freezer in the garage that is wonderful. It's a large, you know, stand-up freezer that's fantastic. And then I have a fridge freezer side by side in the garage from, you know, my old house. And then I have a side by side here in the kitchen. And, you know, I thought I knew what was where, but I don't. So that's one of my next projects, is to get my freezers organized so that I can find all these wonderful things that I'm doing for the freezer. All right, can I get another couple of batches in? Now here come those jalapenos. So you'll notice that while I had on my glove while I was cutting these, I thought, well, you know, they're frozen. I don't need my gloves to do this. Well, Indeed, I did. I ended up paying for that for the rest of the evening. But I did get several bags of jalapenos out of it, so I suppose in the end it may all be worth it. But next time I'll try not to make that mistake. That's 5 more bags added to the freezer. Then I'm going to go get those tomatoes that we were doing a flash freeze on, and we'll get those packaged up into smaller bags. Kind of what I think. I don't really measure when I cook. When I cook, I just kind of throw stuff in. So I just kind of thought, well, okay, what would I throw into a pasta just to add a bit of freshness to it? So here we go. I'm just going to fill up these little bags, and we'll get, I think, 4 of them into the freezer. Okay, you remember from a couple of weeks ago when I did the Italian roasted tomatoes, and I told you how absolutely amazing they were coming out of the refrigerator the next day, and that I had frozen a couple of packages in the vacuum sealed bags, and that I would defrost one and give it a shot to see if I wanted to do any more. Well, I did that. I defrosted them and they were fantastic. They lost a little bit of the chew that they had had originally. So they were just a little bit softer, but basically it was still an outstanding product. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do some more of these. So I had another round of tomatoes by this day. And into the freezer, or I'm sorry, into the oven we go. So I'm going to roast these at 250 degrees. And I put them on, I think, 6 hours this time. And that was pretty good for one tray because I had 2 trays in there. I had to rotate one up, and it was a little bit behind. So I'm going to use Italian seasoning and olive oil, salt, and I'm going to throw some garlic cloves on here as well to roast along with them. When these came out of the oven, gosh, later that night, you'll see the video in a bit. But David and I stood there at the stove where they were cooling off and just ate them. So I bet we each had probably 5 or 6 pieces of these tomatoes. They were just outstanding. So I'm really glad to have these, and I will certainly do some more of these if I think I'm going to have enough to get all my other projects done, because these are just great. The other ones we ate on a salad, and they were just fantastic. Oh, and then we did have some with a burger as well, and it was just really, really nice to have that big pop of flavor, big, bold flavor, along with everything else. So here comes the olive oil. And I just used Italian seasoning this time. Last time I think I used a bunch of different ones, but basically they all added up to Italian seasoning. So there it was. And then I got salt and pepper on. Okay, now it is time to deal with my potatoes. These are all homegrown potatoes that I harvested, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And we've been eating some fresh, and they've been on my list to do, and I just have not gotten to them yet. So now is the time I'm going to get to them. So I gathered up what I thought was probably 2 canners full of potatoes, and I was shockingly close on that amount, so that was terrific. So these are a mix of whites and yellows. I have Nicola was the yellow one, and they don't store very well. So I really needed to go ahead and get these done. The Kennebec, which are the white ones, do store a bit better. So I do still have another, I'd say at least a canner and a half full of potatoes downstairs. So I'll get another batch done, and those I think are all Kennebecs, and I'll be doing those probably as the hash browns and french fries. So these I just did as roasting potatoes, that I can either just throw them in and have them as roasted potatoes, or I can smash them and throw them in and add a little extra oil and have them as crispy smashed potatoes. Yes, which is one of my favorites. So I just showed you. I always soak mine in the food grade hydrogen peroxide. I just want to make sure that they are just as clean as they can be. They are homegrown. There are no chemicals involved in these at all. But I do want to make sure that anything that could come from the soil is eliminated. So there are a few that I end up peeling just a bit. Sometimes the skin gets a little rough. Sometimes it just looks a little rough, and I'm like, nah, I don't think so. And then I also found in here, as you get that one right there, you just saw several potatoes that I missed that we had actually stabbed when we were harvesting them. So I didn't want to can those, so I pulled those aside, and I'm going to end up roasting those and then packaging them up for the freezer. And that'll be, just a quick and easy side, something easy to go with breakfast, maybe make a corned beef hash and some eggs. Or we talked about the sweet potatoes on my salad last week or the week before last. I even like to put, just roasted potatoes on a salad. I think that's good. I like the clash of the hot and the cold. So I'm going to get all of these jarred up. I have a few of these 24-ounce jars that are available at the moment. I think I had 5 of them. So I'm going to do those, fill those up first, and then I'm going to make some pint jars. And I have both canners pulled out, so I'm using the Presto electric canner. That'll be this first batch that goes in. And then I'm also going to fill up the All-American canner on the stove. So I'm going to wipe everything really well with some white vinegar because I'm using oil in these potatoes, obviously. So I've got my new 4 jars lids. Hooray! They look pretty in the jar, don't they? So I have a very detailed tutorial from probably a year ago on how I do my potatoes like this. And then I also have another tutorial on how I do them as hash browns and french fries. So I'll post those up above or down below, perhaps if you really want to see exactly what I'm doing. So here we go in the Presto electric canner. Perfect. All right, those are good to go. Now I'm going to get ready for the All-American. So I just douse them with a little bit of avocado oil. The original directions used ghee, but, I don't do dairy. Ghee, I'm trying to do ghee. I really am. I think that I should be able to do ghee, but it hasn't been a terrific exercise so far. So I am using avocado oil on these. My thought is that, you want to use the oil that can handle whatever heat you're going to ultimately serve these, prepare these for serving. So when I go to prepare these, I'm thinking that they will be in a hot oven at 450 degrees. So I didn't want to use olive oil. So avocado oil tends to be my choice in these, just to give me some more flexibility. So I end up being 1 jar short of a second full canner. So I thought that was pretty good just for standing there in my basement trying to judge how many potatoes I needed. So we'll get these in, and I'll be very grateful to have more of these on the shelf. And I should also tell you that we have just gone back to keto. So it's really good that I'm able to save these potatoes this way and not let them just sit downstairs and die. So this is fantastic. So now that I have the potatoes in the canner, let's get these tomatoes out of the oven. Don't they look just amazing? Oh my gosh, they are so good. So I'm going to set those aside, let them cool down for a while. David and I will actually nibble on several of them, and I'll take care of some other things. So here I am filling up these sun-dried tomatoes. Look at this. I have one ready to go, so I'm just going to seal it up. The other jar sitting there is the tomato skins from last week, so I eventually seal those up as well. And I got these little potatoes. These are the ones that we had, stabbed or were just too small to can. So I got those roasted and then flash froze them. And now I have the roasted tomatoes out of the freezer. So I'm going to get those into bags. I found when we used these the other day that, about 3 per person was pretty good, so maybe 4. So I put like 6 to 8 in each of these bags because I just threw it in a bowl of water and it took, 15, 20 minutes for it to defrost. And then I just opened it and we used them. So I know that, people have a hard time with the plastic, and I get it. I totally get it. If these were reusable kind of bags or something, that would be great. If I had a whole bunch of glass and plenty of room in a freezer, that would be great. But, I don't. And I use reusable bags in my refrigerator all the time. So I have, the green vegetable bags, I have glass, I have everything like that. And this is just the best I could do here for the freezer. Okay, we're overflowing on this table. Things are falling out as I'm trying to get ready here. So let's get through it pretty quickly. Told you it was a busy week, right? Yeah, it was crazy. All right, so I finished my second full quart, all sealed, ready to go, of dehydrated cherry tomatoes. I have a really good start on a third quart, so that's fantastic. I did 12 jars of hot pickled peppers. I have a bunch more in my fridge waiting to be processed. I have 5 of these 24-ounce jars and 9 pints of potatoes ready to go. Very excited to have more of those on my shelf. I was starting to get pretty low. All right, I have peppers. I have 8 bags of these peppers and onions that are easy to throw into a quiche, an omelet, eggs, into a pasta dish, into a stir fry, whatever. I packaged them in size for 2 of us to go into whatever it is we may be fixing. So I'm excited to have those. They're quick and easy. I also have 5 bags of the diced jalapenos, which I'm very excited to have. This means that with all of these frozen tomatoes over here, that I can make salsa, maybe a roasted salsa, sometime this winter, with my own tomatoes and my own jalapenos. I could also make a big batch of chili this winter, throw in a bunch of jalapenos from the garden, and we're good to go. So I'm very excited to have those. Now, along the potato line here, I told you that we had a bunch of potatoes, too many, I think, that we had stabbed when we were harvesting them, or some that were just very small. So we ate what we could, and then I just threw the rest of them on a pan, roasted them up, and then packaged them up at a great size to go, into a breakfast, or to maybe even roast up and put on top of a salad. So I'll just throw these in the air fryer whenever I'm ready, or throw them in the pan with the eggs and, I don't know, maybe corned beef. That sounds good, right? And then I have 16 portions of already cooked chicken breast. These are basically poached and ready to go. You can just defrost them, chop them into a salad or soup or whatever. Or I can take them and throw them in a pan or on the grill, and it'll take, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds aside, just to get a little bit of color on them, and then they'll look like I just made them right then. I have 7 bags of these roasted Italian tomatoes. These things, I'm so glad that they froze well and defrosted well. They're delicious. So I have a bunch more of those. I'm very excited to have those in the freezer. I have some more 4 bags I did of the cherry tomatoes. I did 2 gallons of Roma tomatoes and a gallon and a bit of some slicing tomatoes. I think that the slicing tomatoes will probably end up being some more of my V4 sauce. Basically a spin-off of V8 without some of the added vegetables. So that's it for this week. I thought it was a tremendously successful week. However, I will tell you, my freezers are at maximum capacity now. So one of my first projects in September is going to be to rearrange the pantry, better organize it, see what else I can move onto the pantry shelf, and make sure that I'm not losing anything, because honestly it took me a little while to find the jalapenos for this video. So I did find them, so all is good, but I have a little work to do with my freezers. So I want to thank all of you so much for being here. This has been a ton of fun for me. I hope it has been a ton of fun for you. I've greatly appreciated your participation and your willingness to share with me all the things that you're doing. So I'll be back on Wednesday with your last week of projects, and then I'll be back next Saturday with kind of the whole month, what you can preserve in 31 days kind of look. And looking at this table, I'm not sure I'm going to fit on this table. So you may see me in my dining room next week. We'll see. All right, so thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.